Hi, my name's Chad. I do general contracting work, and this is my story about how I became unfucked.
Can you take us back to what you consider the lowest point in your life?
Yeah, I had a few of them. The lowest point in my life. Well, I wasn't. There wasn't. I don't know how you'd say it. It was normal for to be miserable. I started smoking and drinking probably at the age of 12, and by the time I was 13 or 14, I had a full blown heroin habit, and that was unheard of back then. And I did massive amounts of drugs my whole life, and I was in trouble and looked down upon. So being at low points was just a normal to me. That was just life. I would go to high school parties where people were drinking, and I was thinking about how I could rob them to get money or steal from them to go get drugs, and so and people knew it, and it wasn't normal back then to be like that, and um, as much as it's accepted now, it's looked at in society because it's flooded now. So it was being low was pretty bad, and I continued that pretty much my whole life. Um, in and out of trouble with the law, being in trouble, not being there, doing all of these things. So low points were pretty much an average. I had gotten busted. I was getting arrested, and I was really bad off on a bad run. I was malnutrition. I was skinny. It was time for me to get in trouble again. It was like a blessing to get arrested, like as it always was. It was almost a relief when I get arrested. It was like, okay, cool. I get this time to go clean up again. Like it's pretty bad. And I called my mom at 4 in the morning and told her, "Hey, mom, I'm back in jail again." And I think her response was sad, but it was usually thank God. I sleep so much better when you're there. And she didn't let it be known, but then I was going to get ready to go through processing, and I was really sick. And I heard one of the nurses say to the other nurse, "Happy Mother's Day." I didn't even know it was Mother's Day. And I realized I just called my mom that, like, her other son's dead, and I'm calling her on Mother's Day to let her know that her other son's busted again. And just like, it just kind of hit me. Like, I felt like the biggest piece of shit. Like, what are you doing? And that was a pretty gnarly feeling inside of me of just hope. I just didn't even care anymore. Like, whatever happens to me, I don't even care. Like, I'm not worthy of being here. And that was probably, that point didn't change me. I went back out again, but that was a pretty low point in my life that sticks. I'm sure there was more, but that one really sticks to me. You know?
Probably a gift, though, that you gave your mom on Mother's Day because she knew you'd be safe.
Bittersweet,
Yeah,
if
a
you will.
gift.
Yeah,
Probably a gift. Best
probably,
Mother's Day present you probably could have given her.
probably.
Well, at your lowest point, did you have a support system? And if so, what role did they play? And if you didn't have people there to support you, how did you manage to navigate through all of that on your own?
Yeah, I did. I always had a support system. My parents and my family are probably, I come not from a broken family, I come from a very loving family. My parents and my aunt and uncle and my grandparents and everyone are probably the best humans I know. I could call them at any time and say, "Hey, I want to get better," and they would be there. They tried all kinds of things. I remember my dad driving me across America as a kid and threw me in the back of the car to get me off heroin. He's like, "We're going to drive across America and back. By the time you get back, you're going to be sober." And this was before Suboxone or any of that crap. It was like, just go back there and flop. And they did that numerous times. They never gave up. And I mean, it came to the times where like it was too much. I wasn't welcome at the house anymore always, which I didn't really want to be there anyway. Like you don't want to be at mom and dad's getting loaded. We're out running and doing what we're doing. But I had that support system that I always knew I could go to if I wanted it, and it was there for me, but I never utilized it. I knew it was there. It was just like something like, oh, if I want to get cleaned up, I'll call mom and dad. I'm sure they'll help, you know. But that wasn't even an option at that time. We didn't think about that. Like, but I did have that, and there was times that I would call them or talk to them when I was going through this and ask, hey, and they would check in on me, or I'd see them at Christmas or whatever, you know. And but I did have that. I just never utilized it really that much.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Can you share a moment that was a turning point for you that impacted your decision to change your life? Was there a moment that was pivotal and you deciding you didn't want to live like that anymore?
Absolutely. I think everyone that's been through this has that moment. It wasn't a bright shining light. It wasn't, oh my gosh, I was sitting in my cell, high, loaded, and it was January 2nd, 2017. And I had pictures of my kids up in my cell, and I always ran my mouth, oh, whoop, I'm going to take care of my kid. I'm going to do this. And I never did shit. I would get out and run again. And I was tired. I remember before I got busted that time, I was trying to get into detox, and I was supposed to go that morning. And I ended up staying at a friend's house that night, and we got loaded and whatever. And instead of going to detox in the morning, the house got raided in the morning. They kicked in the doors, and I got gaffled up, and I went to jail instead. So I was like, well, whatever. I was getting off it one way or the other. I guess it's this way. And I went, but it didn't change me. I went into the jail, and I just started chasing the bag and getting loaded, and I stayed loaded the whole time I was there pretty much. And then a month before I was going home, that date, January 2nd, 2017, I was whooping about my kids and doing this, and I had a cellie that was getting loaded with me actually asked me a question. He looked at me and he said, hey man, you talk a lot of game about this, about your kids, and whoop whoop, you got these pictures up and all this crap. Um, can I ask you a question? Would you die for your kids? And I'm looking at him like, of course, what parent wouldn't? Oh, I'm solid. I'm this. I'm that. I'll do anything. Like, ugh. And he looked at me and he just said, why don't you stop being a dipshit and start living for them? And when you're in like this jail mentality of pride and all this stuff, what you think is pride and what you think is like righteous or whatever their little mentality is right there. He had me. I had no comeback to that except for you're right. And that was maybe the drive I was needing to look for it. I'd heard it before, but it never stuck, and we were loaded. And I sat there and I thought about it, and I was kind of pissed because he ruined my high. And I was like, hey, man, you're an asshole. And he talked to me about it, and I talked to him about it. And it was weird because I don't really get letters from my dad or anything when I'm in trouble or I'm gone. And I got a letter that same night from my dad saying that he doesn't want me to come back to the house this time, kind of. That they can't do this, and that he loved me. He'd be there to support me. He'd do everything he can if I decided to change my life. And that was going to be that. And the leather hit me really hard because I know that was hard for my dad to do that. And he had told me later that he had prayed about this and that his determination was to give it up to God, that he was done trying to drive that car and get his kid better. He was giving it to God. God, take them and do what you want. If you're going to take them home, take them home. If you're going to fix them, you're going to fix them. And he had already lost one son of this, so I'm sure that was not easy for him to do, but he released and he let go. And that night, I took my drugs. I slid them over to my neighbor's cell. I said, here you go, bro. And I gave them to my neighbor right there. And I never picked up drugs again. And it just stuck. It hit me. And it was just a combination of those two things. I don't know why that was different from any other time or whatever it was. It just hit that I need to be there for my kids. And I need to be there for my parents. And I need to do this and I need to do that. And that started to motivate me and drive me. And from that point on, I stopped. And I got out a month later. And I didn't know what to do. I guess when I was getting out, I knew I wanted to stay sober. I didn't know. I was kind of lined up to maybe go to a sober living house. I didn't know. And I had met who you interviewed earlier, Timmy, in the release tank. And he was there. And we started talking about, who, yeah, we have the same mutual friends, of course, because everyone does. And he told me to call one of our mutual friends when I got out the next day, and I called him the next day, and he picked me up, and we went to a meeting, and we did things like that. And another mutual friend of us, we went to church, and I was off and running. I just did that, and that was the turning point in my life, and how it started.
It's great to have a network on the
Yeah.
outside of positive people as big and as strong as the network of people when we're loaded and not doing well. Quality's way better on the other side. It's great you had someone to reach out to. Not everyone has that. Not everyone has a person they can call and hold on to. So it's really a gift that was provided to you that Timmy gave.
Yeah, I don't even think he knew about that, but little things like that, like, I talked to him years later and say, hey man, you really helped save my life, bro, and I really appreciate that. Like he was held back. He should have been released hours before, but he was messing around on the tier or something. The cop got pissed, so put him on timeout in the release tank for a little while, and it's a trip. Like he got on that timeout maybe just to see me and run across me and say, call this person. And the moon's aligned, or God put him there, and it worked out for me to my advantage. So I'm very grateful that he got put on timeout because I didn't know where I was gonna go. You know what I mean? I was like scared. Like, what do you mean? I'm gonna stay. Like, where do you go? What do you do? How do you act? I didn't know. Like,
well, that there are other people that we know and in our community that have unfucked their lives that are there to unconditionally help and be there for us. There's a lot of people I feel like that don't have that. And so they stay fucked a lot longer. So that he could give you that gift of a person, that could help you and has already started walking that walk of unfucking their life was pivotal and impactful. It was,
massive, massive. It was huge. If you don't have that, and drug addicts are a trip. They're all or nothing. So when you're shooting dope and running and gunning and doing all that, they're doing it full blast, and then they go and get cleaned up, and it's time to like do this and help. They're doing that full blast. So there's no like mediocre strolling. It's you call them, and guess what? They're coming. It's kind of cool.
yeah. How do you confront and overcome your feelings of despair or hopelessness during your toughest challenges? Or should I have asked that question in past tense? This is be when you're loaded.
By shooting dope. That's how I would overcome it. You do drugs to not feel. I wasn't trying to be some Pablo Escobar, or I was doing drugs to not feel. That's like I that's all I wanted was to not feel. And then you do drugs so much that doesn't work anymore. So you got to throw a little adrenaline on it. You got to go steal cars. You got to go commit crimes. You got to go do robbery. You do whatever you do, to fulfill that feeling, to like not feel, to take it off of that. That's how I would deal with that. That was the whole reasoning of it. I wasn't trying to be some gangster. I wasn't trying to like do any of that crap, even though that was attractive in that world. Everyone like whatever. It. I was doing it to not feel. That's how I coped with it. I didn't deal with it with any sanity at all. I mean, if that's dealing with it, if that answers that question.
Yeah, pretty well. That's the coping skill allotted at the time. What role did forgiveness play in your process of moving forward?
Forgiveness played a huge role. Forgiving myself was one of the best things I ever did. I had to forgive myself for the things that I'd done to my family, most of all to my kids. Even my ex-wife. I was not a good person. And even though I held some bitterness there with her, I forgave myself and learned to forgive that, to help me. It was a struggle. My kids were scared when I came home. They didn't know me anymore. They didn't like. It was completely understandable, and I don't want to go into too much detail about them, but they were shy of it, and there was a lot of people. I don't want to go into detail about my kids that much. It's not about, but there was a lot of people that didn't trust me and didn't do that, and I would hold that in, and they weren't sure of me, or they held grudges. They did that. I can't. All I can do is try to fix that, but I'm not going to fix everyone because not everyone's happy with themselves. So all I can do is forgive myself. And I did that, and I just vowed to myself the way I make it right is by doing everything I can every day of my life to try to make it up to the rest of the world, especially my kids and my parents and all that. Like I'm not going to sit here and say I'm sorry a million times or every day. I'm just going to sit down one time, apologize, and let them know I forgave myself, and let them know that you'll see in my actions I'm going to spend the rest of my life molding my life out around doing right by you guys. And that's my way of forgiving, and it helps me a lot.
In what ways did your struggles shape the person you are today?
They made me everything. Like it, they drive me. If you think about, like, I walk around and I'm in business meetings and on job sites, and I look at people that, like, oh my God, it's the end of the world. Like, because some little thing happened, and you're worried about that? Like, that's nothing. Like, we could get through that and we could conquer that. That, I mean, giving me tough skin, calloused, all that, more than the average guy, it helps a lot. Um, I don't know if that answers your question. It doing that lifestyle didn't, like, it doesn't teach you morals. It doesn't, like, those have to come after. Like, those have to be embedded back into you. And I kind of already had that. My parents embedded that into my brother and I when we were young. So going back to that was the transition was, I think, a lot easier for me than most people. like a lot of these guys out here they don't even have parents. They don't know what that is. They don't, or they had a single person parent that wasn't ever there, or whatever their reasoning or their living situation was. I had that, so going back to that was already embedded in me. But just being calloused and not tripping on stupid stuff that like I try not to. I still do. I'm like I get frustrated, but like deep down, I'm just like whatever. Who cares? And that helps me a lot by not sweating the bullshit that doesn't really matter, you know.
Looking back, was there a piece of advice or a message you received during your dark times that gave you a glimmer of hope or that stuck with you?
Not really. Not that I remember. I don't. I would know it right off the top of my head if it stuck with me. I'm sure there was, but nothing that stuck with me. I didn't. The message was
Too numb to hear a message?
too numb to hear a message. It just didn't care. I don't care. What? Like,
Yeah.
I don't care what you have to say. Do you have dope?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I had zero interest in anything like that.
Okay. Can you share a moment or achievement in your journey that you were particularly proud of?
A moment or a what?
A moment or an achievement. Can you share something that you've accomplished or that you're really proud of in your time of being unfucked? Something impactful that you're
Yeah. Um. Moments I remember when my kids first told me they love me again. That was massive to me. Laughing with them was massive to me. Just hanging out and them going to do something was was awesome. Um, seeing my parents smile and finally being proud was huge. Those things were big. Seeing my kids calling me because they need something, like to most parents would be like whatever, that just happens. Like that is massive to me. Like, and me being able to provide it, not just them wanting it from me. I can provide it. Like we've done huge things. Like I'm able to help my kid, assist him in finances to go through college. I'm able to buy my daughter a car. She's 6. She just turned 16. Here's a car. I'm able to, whatever they need, I can provide it for them. I mean, there's been other things. There's been success in business. There's been this. There's been that. But that stuff is like whatever. Like seeing my parents, um, happy probably of my kids back in my relationship. I remember I was able to give back a little. It was just a drop in the bucket to them for what they've done for me. Was I asked them, they just celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary, and I asked them the year before if they could go anywhere in the world, because where would they go on a vacation? And they both said they wanted to, they always dreamed of going on this 10-day train ride through the Canadian Rockies. It's scoped in for people their age, so it's this, it's that, it's beautiful. They want to do all this, and they always dream, and they would whatever, you know. And I asked them about that, and so I was able to go and purchase that for them and give that to them for their 50th wedding anniversary. That was a pretty proud moment for me, and that was cool. And they enjoyed it. They loved it. It was awesome.
Yeah, they did.
And things like that are my proud moments. Business success and like that's just whatever to me. The money and stuff. It's to see me bringing happiness to them and dependability and knowing like, oh, my kid's there if I need them, or my dad's there if I need them. It makes me feel like the biggest man I've ever been. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's really cool. They really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Hey, cut it. I just didn't want you to get in the middle.
All right. And let's see. In moments of doubt or when faced with setbacks during your journey, when you're having a rough day, how do you motivate yourself to keep going?
My kids. My kids, they deserve that. There's no giving up. There's no tapping. It's not an option. It's not on the chopping block. It's not. It's my kids, 100%. Even when they're pissed at me, because they're being teenagers or they're being whatever, they're frustrated or because I couldn't take them here because I'm at work or whatever they want, like, or if it doesn't go the best that day with it, like they motivate me 100, being a role model to them and being able to provide for them and making sure shit's going right. I almost wake up every day and think to myself, what can I do today to better myself, to better my kids? Even though they don't see it all the time, but I'm working on it. I'm working on it to build a safe home or to maintain it or to a lifestyle or whatever it is. That's my 100% motivation. And God, I lean on him a lot. This is my physical right in front of me. It's for letdown or like it's my kids.
Good.
Yeah.
It's an easy one. Even if they're not always pleasant. I understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're young.
Yeah.
I'm playing the long game here.
Reflecting on your transformation, how do you now view those low points in your life? And what significance do they hold to your story?
It's kind of like the other question. It's almost, I think I almost answered this one already. I mean, they just made me calloused. They calloused me up and for life, and like that was my. Most people go to college. We went through that, and they drive me because I do not want to go back to that. So the add drive under there, like knowing, like if you don't stay up on your game and do your homework and communicate with people and do what we do to keep our life straight, like that feeling. You can go get that feeling anytime and be very careful because and tread lightly because if you don't do what you're supposed to be doing and you start to slip up on your program a little bit and mess up, that's coming. It's right there. It's waiting for you. So those things, knowing those things motivate me. Knowing that's back there, going through that already, no, it's kind of like lighting a match under someone's ass and walking around. They're gonna keep running. Like you always have that match because you know what's over there, and that's how those things affect my life right now.
What message do you want to share with other people currently facing similar challenges that you've overcome? Do you have a message for people that have been through some of the things you've been through or that are struggling with them now?
100%. You matter. You matter, and you matter. Like you're here for a reason, and what you're going through. There's tons of other people that have gone through this, and we know how to make it so you don't have to feel like that anymore. You matter even though you feel you don't matter. You're here for a reason. Whether you believe in God or not, I do. He made you, and who is anyone to say what he made is not significant? He made you for a reason. You're here for a reason. Come experience this life that is unreal. There's no high in the world that can top it. We can help you. Reach out. Do whatever you need to do. And come experience it because you matter and you're loved. Like, we love everyone here. Our family, our little Unfkd family, we thrive off of loving and giving. And like, we don't care who you are or what you've done, where you're. Come on over. Check it out.
Come join the party.
Come join the party. Be part of the fun. Unfuck your shit. And start living. Because that's not living. Well, you guys are stagnant and it sucks there. I've been there. And we're doing cool shit over here. Really cool. Like, unbelievable stuff. That would be my message to whoever's out there. Need a hug? Cruise over. We got them all day.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like giving hugs.
I know you do. My girlfriend will hug anyone here.
Got you.
She's really pretty too. So.
Thanks, babe. Okay, so in light of that, how do you feel about giving? I mean, is that redundant or?
Giving is the big, no, that's not redundant. Giving is the biggest, best thing in the world to me. I love giving. I think I got a lot of that from my parents, watching them always trying to help people when I was younger, and it was placed on my heart from a really young age, I was told. I didn't know the art of it because it's almost an art. Giving is so much better than receiving, in my book. There's a bunch of reasons why watching the joy on people's face, helping someone, getting them through that giving them encouragement, letting them know that the world is better. There's so much crap going on out here in the world that everyone's so caught up in this and whatever. Like, to see an act of kindness does so much for people. It's like I watch it time and time again. It's like water running downhill. It just trickles. You do it for someone, pay it forward. And it happens and it just goes and you see it go down the line. And it's just awesome. And giving back, giving whatever you can give. Sit on the curb with a homeless man and buy him a hot dog. You don't have to give them a bunch of money. Give them 5 minutes of your time. Stuff like that is massive. Help someone else that is going through what you've been through. It doesn't have to be drug addiction. It could be financial. Unfucked. Like, it could be divorce. It could be whatever. If you experience it, share your experience. Help someone. That giving is, and then you also get this other thing. When you give, you also get back. Every time I give, and I don't give for that reason, it seems like some blessing comes and lands on me out of nowhere, and I'm like, whoa, what was that? Oh yeah, there it is again. And to me, it's the best thing in the world that you could do, is giving. That's my point on giving.
So when you're not doing all that giving, how do you live life to its fullest?
Wow, that's living life to its fullest from becoming unfucked. I don't think there's much that we don't do now. My passion is fishing. I love to fish. And we have groups of guys that go and fish that are in the same position. I mean, and we love to do that together. That is one of my favorite things to do in this world. What don't we do? We play in the desert. We ride dirt bikes. We pretty much have something for every season because our brains are just fixed that we need to be going 100 miles an hour or we get bored, and boredom's not good. We ride Harleys all over the place. We go play in the surf. We just rode to Sturgis, which was awesome. Seeing America on Harleys was great. We're snowboarding. My daughter actually has been going with me, and she's good at it, and she's picking it up. So that's something that we've been doing together that I absolutely love. And we try to do at least one trip a month, something, if not weekly. And that is the gifts of the hard work and the rewards we get from doing what we do. And I will keep charging that as long as I can walk. I think it's a huge part. And staying sane and being happy is rewarding yourself because you deserve it when you've worked this hard to get where you're going. And if you have a few minutes, and I don't expect everyone to be able to go out and buy a Harley because you might not be financially there. But before I could do that, before I started to make a few dollars and settled into a little bit of a better job, when I was first getting clean, I remember going to and buying a cheap fishing pole at Walmart, and I would skateboard down to the harbor, and I would just spend a few hours there and fish, and that was my living life to the fullest at the time. Or I'd go skate or whatever we were doing. I was just making that time. And I encourage everyone to find something out there as a hobby, as a full throttle thing to do. Hiking's cheap. Whatever you're gonna do it. Get out there and do it, because that is a major part of Unfucked, is us living life to our fullest. We try to do as much of that as possible.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've kind of covered it all.
Yeah.
My name is Chad, and I'm Unfucked.